Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Sens Nation podcast. Man, we got lots to talk about. We were talking off the air about all the topics. There's too much here. There's just too much here. We had a costly pair of games in Tampa Bay as lightning strikes twice. We'll talk a little bit about the injury bug, the goaltending decision. Was it the right one? Four nations looming, booing anthems. We get into that as well. All still ahead today here on the Sens Nation podcast. First, let's bring on our co-host, Greg Kennedy. Greg, the coach, how are things?
Things are good, Steven. You ready for tomorrow?
Ready for tomorrow?
Or sorry, for Sunday.
Oh,
for Sunday.
okay.
Sorry,
yeah.
for Sunday.
I was like, what's happening tomorrow? I don't know what's happening.
No, Sunday.
Right.
I know you have a world-famous wings recipe, right?
Exactly. I was just about to say, that's probably the thing I'm looking forward to, because I just don't care who wins. These two teams mean nothing to me. So what I'm most looking forward to is my wife hammering some Super Bowl buffalo. What am I saying? Super Bowl buffalo chicken dip. It's a little wordy when you get down to it, but it is a very memorable dish all the same. Yeah. Now let's bring on our guest. Graeme Nichols is with us as well from the Hockey News, from Roman a Day. How are things, Graeme?
Everything's good. How are you guys doing?
Oh, very good.
Well.
Very good.
Yeah.
And you've been covering the team very closely this year, and I don't think we've had a chance to ask you on the show, but how things have gone.
It's good. Yeah, it was good. I was always kind of nervous. It was something different. So one, you're not sure how the dynamics are going to be with the media. Two, you're not really sure how the dynamics are going to be with the players and the employees of the organization. But everything's just been like unbelievable. Everyone's been really welcoming, forthright, honest, and open to suggestions. Like if I pitch something to like Ian or Sly saying, "Hey guys, this is what I want to write. Could I get this player if he's available?" And they're like, "Yeah, 100%, let's do it."
Yeah.
And it's like, it's my first year doing it, obviously, but based off what stories I've heard from the past, it seems like a breath of fresh air. And it's, like, I think the more eyes on this team, the better. Like if you're trying to grow this fan base, that's exactly what you want to do. You want to tell stories about the guys in that room. So the fan base essentially has a greater understanding of these players, appreciates the stories, and they build a better relationship. Like the more you know about these players, the more engaged you are with these players through the media, the better the relationship's going to be. And that goes from the fans to the media to the players. And it's been awesome. I can't complain. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of challenges as well, but it's something new and I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and you've made the Hockey News website a lot better as well, the Ottawa page, thn.com/Ottawa. So thank you for that. And let's jump in. We should talk about these last two games we're recording this year, 1 month from the NHL trade deadline, just after the Sens have lost two straight games in a kind of a scheduling quirk in Tampa Bay. And Greg, let's start with you. I mean, can you picture a more costly pair of losses? Like they go from a chance to take an 8-point lead on Tampa Bay. Instead, the two teams are tied, and in effect, Tampa Bay is a two-game. They have 2 games in hand, so they're effectively ahead of the Sens right now. What did you think of the last couple of games here?
Yeah, two complete offensive duds, I thought, that especially the Stars. The Stars didn't show up, and then you lost 2 guys, too, so it's going to be interesting now to see. Apparently, Pinto may not be as long as we think. Maybe he's going to play tonight or tomorrow night. But Norris, I'm a little concerned about yet again. But yeah, I just thought the Stars didn't show up. The power play didn't show up. The offense wasn't there from the big guns. That was the biggest problem with I could see anyway.
Yeah, Travis Green said after the game, he felt like the second game, even though it was a 5-1 loss, a couple empty net goals in there, he felt like the second game was a lot better actually than the first one. What was your view on things, Graeme?
Yeah, I echo Greg's comments completely. I had a really hard time watching the first power play unit operate, and it's just, for all the talent on that unit, it seems like if nothing's available in the slot, then they're just throwing it around the perimeter, and it's a lot of like chances. Now it seems like what they're going to a lot is just a Jake Sanderson wrister from the top of the umbrella, and they're looking for like the high tip or like the net front presence to be there, and it just doesn't look dangerous. It doesn't look dynamic. It seems just like it's very one dimensional, very predictable, and like they're not looking for one timers, not like for seam passes, and it's just. It's tough to stomach because I think that there's more talent on this team than what they've shown, especially with that unit. And then you watch the second power play unit go out there, and then they're just concerned with getting pucks on net and getting greasy goals. And I think having David Perron back and is part of that unit's a big help. But it just seems like the second unit's just a stripped down version, but like they're doing the simpler, safer plays, and it's more efficient right now, and they're getting more dangerous looks.
So any thought on why that is, Greg? Like you've coached for 100 years. You've dealt with struggling power plays before. This is an Ottawa Senators team that has the greatest player in franchise history behind the bench in Daniel Alfredson, along with Mike Yeo, who's I guess looking after it to some degree as well. Like why? I mean, they're seeing it too. Why aren't they fixing it?
Well, it's difficult because it becomes a mindset. You want to score goals, but at the same time, you're not scoring goals, so you don't want to turn the puck over. So you limit your risk, right? You eliminate the cross ice pass, the seam pass. You eliminate a sneaky little play on the wall to free somebody up in a bumper spot, and you just go to get it high, dangle a little bit, find a shooting lane, and fire and hope something works. You can see it especially in the second unit, where I really think their only set play is David Perron just wires one as hard as he can right along the ice into the crease, right? Like Ridley Gregg scored one and then just missed on another one. That seems to be the only option that those guys seem to employ. And I think it's just guys gripping the stick tight and not wanting to screw up. That's kind of creeping into it, I think.
There is the absence of Josh Norris. He's dinged up right now, and I never know exactly whether to take Travis Green at face value or not, because he is just so loath to talk about his player injuries. And he threw out, a couple of weeks. Yeah, it could be a couple more on top of that. Who knows? But he said a couple of weeks for sure, which would indicate, maybe he's back. He heals up during the Four Nations break. But the absence of Josh Norris on that power play, to some degree, I'm sure is a factor. Shane Pinto, how long will he be out exactly? Sounds like there's a chance he'll be against Florida as well. So in your christening, in covering the Sens on a day-to-day basis, Graeme, I'm curious to know, have you ever seen a coach that is so loath to talk about his players being hurt?
Yeah, you're not getting much.
No, you're not.
You're not getting anything, which is fine. Like if they want to keep that stuff private, they can keep private. Like the league doesn't punish them for it. So it's just part of the course, as long as you know that going in. But like, you could say week to week for these guys, but because of this Four Nations face-off break, like, would they have been available next week? I don't know. But it's I think like the timing of this break couldn't come at a better time. I think like,
Agreed.
They're a little bit banged up right now. You get like 2 weeks off just to refresh, recharge. Like they've had a really strong stretch here for the last month and a half. And just giving them like a 2-week break, especially with the hardships they faced on this trip after that Nashville game, it's just coming at a welcome time. So if they can get Pinto and Norris back at the end of the month when they face off against like Winnipeg and Montreal, and then carry over into those important games where they're facing teams like Columbus, Boston, Philadelphia, Montreal, like games that are winnable games against teams that are in the East, they're kind of like trying to make a push for the postseason spot. That's all you can ask for. And I think if you told fans at the beginning of the year that Ottawa was going to be in a playoff position heading into this Four Nations face-off break, I think everybody would have been, happy with it. But I mean, you can also look at it like glass half empty side, saying, hey, this team could be a little further ahead than they are right now, which is fair. But like they're in the playoffs. To their credit, they're in a playoff spot right now, and they might not be after they play on Saturday, but they're right in the mix of it. And the schedule should get easier going into March and April. They have a ton of home games in April, so they put themselves in a comfortable spot, and they're in the driver's seat. And if they take care of their own business down the stretch, then they should be fine.
Yeah, I think they're in the driver's seat if Pinto and Norris aren't seriously hurt. And yeah, if they get them back, I would agree with that. But Greg, I mean, without Pinto and Norris, I mean, I joked on social media that second game in Tampa Bay, it looked like the line combinations had been put together with a bingo machine, just pulling names out. To see Batherson start the game on the third line, you had Ridley Gregg as the first line center. There were a lot of odd things about that lineup, including Nicholas Matanpalo not playing. I mean, he was there. He was the seventh guy, and Hamonic kind of ahead of him in the lineup. What were your impressions of the line combinations in that second game?
Well, the thing that strikes me is that, yes, you've lost these two higher up the lineup guys, but your fourth line suddenly isn't anywhere near as effective as it was. The loss of Nick Cousins and people being forced to play out of depth. You don't have four lines. You barely have three lines. You could probably argue that they don't really even have three NHL caliber lines right now. So it just hurts up and down the lineup. And then you've got guys I don't care if you finally scored your first goal in 16 games. You snap it 0 for 16. Okay, well, you're still only 1 for your last 17. That guy's still in a slump. This guy's still in a slump. There's far too many of these offensive weapons are in slumps where they might have broken the 0 for, but now they're 1 for whatever. So what? The offensive guys have got to get their cookies. Have got to start producing, or it's going to be a real crappy little couple of months here to finish up this season if they don't get going with the offense.
Yeah, whether it's, I think about the offense right now and the forwards, they need to get it going. They need to get healthy, and that will determine here in the next month if they're going to get busy at the trade deadline. There were some names thrown out there. Elliot Friedman mentioned that Brandon Saad might have been in the mix until he ended up in Vegas. Sens might have been interested there. In fact, he said they were interested. And then you have Casey Middlestat, who's in Colorado. He might be someone the Sens are interested in, according to Elliot Friedman. And then you have maybe someone from within who, if he gets it going, maybe Graeme, he ends up being kind of a pseudo trade acquisition, because David Perron, the free agent from last summer, really hasn't done much offensively, but he looks like he's starting to get the points going. And that would be absolutely huge for them down the stretch if David Perron can, rediscover some of his scoring swagger from previous years.
Hey, if you can keep banking pucks off guys' heads and putting them in the net, I think we'll all take it.
Absolutely.
It's not the prettiest goal he's ever scored, but we'll take it. But no, he's finally got his first 2 points of the season, right, on this road trip. He scored against Nashville and then added an assist against Tampa in the first game. So if he could get going, I think there's a secondary scoring depth that he can provide. I think Michael Amadio is playing some of his best hockey since he arrived. And like Shane Pinto, like that was a line that was put together in the preseason. I thought, points notwithstanding, I thought that was their most effective line coming into the regular season. Obviously, unfortunate circumstances limited Perron's availability early in the year, and then an injury to Pinto as well kept him on the sidelines for a little bit. And it's been a little bit disjointed. Ottawa's depth at the bottom of the lineup's been a little bit disjointed with these injuries and whatnot. And if they can get those guys healthy again and playing on a third line, it's going to give them scoring depth. I think like one of the struggles of Ottawa's roster right now is they just don't have a ton of scoring depth. I think like Adam Gaudette was probably one of the nicest, better stories of the first half of the season, but like his game has tapered off considerably. And if he's not scoring, he's not bringing a lot of elements that help this team right now. I think he does have a little bit of defensive aptitude and whatnot, but he's not the fastest skater. He's not a grinder. He's not winning a ton of puck battles along the wall. He's not beating guys to get to the puck battles along the wall. And, if there are opportunities to improve the bottom six, I think that's one of the easiest ways that Steve Stais can address the roster towards the deadline.
You think they'll do much, Greg?
Well, it stinks in a way, because I'd rather see them get some blue line depth, right? I want all the forwards to be healthy, and let's go find somebody else to play in the 5-6 pair, or even a 4-5-6. We've talked about this before, Steve, that what's required if you're going to go out and get somebody in a trade. And now, because of injury, your hand is almost forced that you're going to have to go find a depth forward or something, because you're going to have you don't have a lot of assets to play with, and you don't want to give up too much. So trying to find a D and a forward might become difficult to find two guys that can step in and play. But yeah, the priority right now is to get the bottom six scoring, get them all scoring. The top six, the bottom six, get all the forwards scoring. And unless people are going to be back quicker than we think, they may end up having to do it by the trade route.
Changing gears to goaltending. We talked about it for several episodes. Whatever will they do when Linus Ullmark gets back from his back problem? Well, he finally got back. And the decision was, and there were options they had, they could have rolled the bones and sent Forsberg down. They could have kept three guys here for a while, but what they decided to do was the safe route. They decided to put their hottest goaltender down in Belleville, and largely because he could clear waivers and there was no risk of losing any of the three goalies. Well, the Sens have gone 0-2 since that happened. Graeme, did they make the right decision?
They made the safest one. I think they made the one that might not be the most popular. I think, like, statistically speaking, I thought Levi Marilina was the best statistical goaltender. He was the one who has the .925 save percentage that matches like Connor Hellebuck's. I think of all the guys who made 10 plus starts, I think Anthony Stollers from Toronto is the only one with the higher save percentage than he does. And I totally understand it. You have two veterans who've been around the team for a while, like Anton Forsberg's the longest tenured guy here. And he's well liked in the room and everything else. But he's had a wholly ineffective season to this point, although he's played better in recent weeks. But if you're talking about putting the best goaltender on the ice, I don't know if the answer right now is Anton Forsberg. And I think what opens the door for criticism a little bit, without really knowing too well what Linus Ullmark's condition is right now, but like Forsberg has started 2 of the first 3 games on this trip in must-win situations and in 4-point game situations against Tampa, and I don't think fans anticipated, especially with Forsberg starting in Nashville. I think you assume immediately that, okay, well, if Forsberg's starting in Nashville, that means you're probably going to get Ullmark for at least 2 of the next 3 games against Tampa and Florida, and that hasn't happened. Forsberg's had 2 starts in must-win games, and he's not Levi Merilainen, he's not Linus Ullmark. He's had decent stretches of late, but he's the 3rd best goaltender on the roster.
The results speak for themselves, Greg. 0-2. We mentioned, yeah. What did you think overall?
Yeah, I was shocked. I must win. I mean, Graeme just laid it out. Must win, playoff chase. Apparently, he's back, so he must be healthy. So why doesn't Ullmark start at least the second game? Start the second game after he played the first game. I understand Forsberg took the first game. It's back-to-back. So, okay, we knew Ullmark was going to play the first game against Tampa after Forsberg played in Nashville. But it was 2 days off. Like, where's Ullmark to play against Tampa again? I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me whatsoever from a coaching standpoint, from a player personnel proper usage, from a health standpoint. Everything pointed toward it's got to be Ullmark, and I'm shocked that he didn't play in Game 2 against Tampa.
Could be that maybe it's possibly kind of tweaked something, maybe, Graeme.
Yeah, possibly, and if that's the case, then maybe that comes out down the road. But in talking about Forsberg, like I don't blame last night's loss to Tampa on Forsberg. I thought he played okay. And he was fine. But I mean, it just opens the door to criticism, right? It's just, you paid this guy $8 million a year to be the number 1 guy. If he's healthy and able to dress, it just doesn't, if he's good enough to dress, sit on the bench as your backup, I don't know. It's just weird. It's just a weird dynamic. And I don't know, maybe he is a goaltender who's got to be 100% to play. And, I don't want to compare him to Hasek or anything else, but I mean, like that was the rub on Dominic Hasek, right? Like that's what made him so good. Like he wasn't going to play if he wasn't feeling like he was at 100%. Maybe Ullmark's the same way.
I go back to Crash Davis in Bull Durham. Never F with a win streak. The magic of Merilainen that he had going right now. The guy had 3 shutouts in 12 starts. His stats were unbelievable. To me, it seemed like a slam dunk to just sort of let things settle out a little bit. And even give Ullmark all the time he needs to get healthy at the same time. You were rolling pretty nicely with Merilainen. He was giving you reliably excellent production in the net. And so, I mean, I'm not playing Monday morning quarterback or anything here. I just feel like keep all 3 guys around. Just wring every ounce of magic you can out of the 22-year-old. Maybe it fades at some point, like the Hamburglar faded. Who knows? But I want every ounce of that because this whole 7-year playoff drought has been part of the storyline, has been goalie graveyard. And here you have this kid come up and somehow figures things out, and the team just continues to play well in front of him. And then all of a sudden you go to Tampa without Merilainen. He's gone down to the minors, and they come away with a really costly pair of losses. But while we're on goaltending and get back to the 4 Nations here, do you guys believe Ullmark should go to the 4 Nations with 1 start under his belt, maybe 2 if he plays in Florida?
Like that's why he's playing now, isn't it? Like that would be my assumption is he's trying to gear up for that event, and Markstrom's hurt, so I think that opens the door for him to start. Like Gustafson's been okay in Minnesota of late, but I think like health permitting, I think Ullmark's probably the number 1, unless Anton Forsberg miraculously becomes the number 3 and then starts playing ahead of him at the 4 Nations faceoff. But I think he's the guy. Like, he's got the gear, he's got the mask. I know Dave Gunnarsson from Dave Art did a mask for Allmark. So like, I think by all circumstances, like you saw the pads, like the Senators tweeted photos of his goaltending set that's out there. So like he has every intention of playing there, and that's it. I understand why there would be concerns based off what happened with Turin and Dominic Hasek in 06, but like, I don't know if he's healthy to play, I think it'd be fine.
Well, and it's interesting, is it, are they letting Allmark make the decision, or will be a team? Will there be any influence from the team on the decision-making process? Because I see what's happening in Vancouver right now. The Canucks are, Rick Tocchet talking a little bit about Quinn Hughes this week and saying, I don't mind being the bad guy if I have to.
Right.
Basically, it comes down to whether he's available this weekend, and so that will have an influence potentially on a member of the Ottawa Senators. But, where are you leaving this up to Allmark, or is it going to be a club decision, do you think?
Well, by rights or by law or by rules or whatever, I believe the team is not allowed to, and I can be corrected on this, but I don't believe the teams are allowed to say you can't go if the player is healthy.
Oh, yeah, that's news to Rick Tocchet then.
Yeah, I don't believe the team is actually allowed to stop it, because this is an NHL event, and I don't know that Gary would be too happy with that. But I was firmly believed, especially once Markstrom went down, that Allmark, if healthy, would be the number one guy. And then somebody said the other day, and I've forgotten who it was. It might have been Steve Lloyd the other mornings, or it was during the pregame show last night, that watch Gus the Bus play game one and just be the man right through the whole tournament, and Allmark doesn't even play. Let's at least get him on the ice and practice. Are they going to practice? Will he get some work in? Will he get some shots? Maybe it helps him to at least be active instead of on a beach somewhere.
Yeah, we sometimes talk about this tournament like it's a big, Olympic or World Junior style event where you play 7 games in regulation and then a whole playoffs as well. This is going to be over and done potentially in 3 games, 4 if you get to the final. So it may be much ado about nothing, and that one goaltender can handle it all. But I want to ask also about the Four Nations, and you had a good conversation recently with Jake Sanderson about his last few weeks. He's really turned it up right at a time when Quinn Hughes is dinged up. He missed his 3rd game last night, and so if he can't go, can you think, Graeme, of a more tailor-made replacement maybe than Jake Sanderson? Same kind of player, both left shots?
I don't know if there's many guys playing better hockey right now than Jake Sanderson on defense. Like he's been absolutely incredible. And it's weird how it all coincides with being reunited with Artem Zub on January 3rd. It's just weird. It's just weird. I don't know what's changed. I have no idea. I have no idea what's changed. But those two have been lights out. I think, like, if you look at all their analytical data, like, they're arguably the top pairing in the league. I think, like, the only other pairing that's putting up comparable numbers right now is like Ekholm and Bouchard in Edmonton. And just from a points perspective, like, heading into last night's game, he scored 14 points in his last 16 games. Like, he's been every bit as good as you expect him to be on defense, but he's finally adding a little bit more of the offense that he was hoping to bring that element to his game this season. And I think you're starting to see the results now. And I think a lot of it has to do with having a capable defensive partner who he trusts, who can move the puck as well. And it takes a little bit of the pressure off him. And they're just feeding off each other right now. And it's great to see. And if the Senators can get Nick Jansen and Tom Chabot playing at the high level with that pairing playing at a high level, I think Ottawa's going to be a handful for teams down the stretch.
Yeah. Sanderson, I think, has just been, because he already has a complicated job onto itself because he's such a good two-way defenseman. So he has a lot to think about with his own job. He can't be doing other people's job for him, and that's been the case a lot of the year, doing his partner's work or a bit of it. So I think he's a real good opportunity to be at Four Nations. There's a real poise and a confidence there. And one thing I loved the other night against Tampa Bay, I forget which game it was, might have been the first one, where Kucherov is blazing down the left wing after Stützle has given up the puck at the offensive blue line, and it looks like Kucherov's in on a breakaway. And man, the powerful strides on the back check from Sanderson in support was a thing of beauty. I know, Greg, you've been impressed with how he's been going too.
Yeah, and the thing is, he'd be one of those guys that if he got to play on this team in this tournament, he would come back. He'll be on fire. If he gets there and gets to play, when he comes back, you watch, he'll go up even another notch. to be around those kinds of players, to play with them, to practice with them, to play against the competition he's going to play against. I just think he's a guy who'll come back just on fire. I'd really like to see him get a chance. It's a shame, really, that the first 2 months of the season, he kind of got screwed around a little with partners, with Zub in and out all the time. If he'd started the year and played the whole year with Zub, he'd be in the Norris conversation, and he would have been on this team, no problem.
Okay, round the table one time. Scale of 1 to 10. Now that it's almost here, the Four Nations, it starts on Wednesday. What is our excitement level, scale of 1 to 10, about the Four Nations? Graeme?
6.5, 7. Only because it's not the event that I'm excited for. It's just like, I love seeing best on best hockey. Like if you tell me it's like, okay, you finally have a chance to watch like Connor McDavid and Crosby play on the same team, and then like Austin Matthews. Like it's weird that like those guys have been in the league for so long. In the case of like McDavid and Austin Matthews and stuff, and you're like, they haven't really played best on best tournaments. And it's like, it's crazy to think like internationally that just hasn't happened. I think that's like one of the taints of the Gary Bettman era is like there just hasn't been enough emphasis on having best on best tournaments and having them consistently. And yeah, so in that respect, I'm looking forward to good hockey. I want to watch some good hockey. And I think Greg hit the nail on the head. I think like if there's an opportunity for the Sens players to get in and get reps, whether it's Sanderson or Brady Tkachuk, like if you put Brady Tkachuk and Sanderson in those positions, like high stakes games against like Team Canada, it's whatever they bring back from this tournament, it should be huge. And I hope it's infectious, and I hope it rubs off on all their teammates, and they bring it. They find that extra little gear down the stretch as a refresh, and allows them just to carry some momentum in this last quarter of the season. It'd be awesome.
Boy, that'd be weird for Sens fans to have Canada taking on Brady Tkachuk and Jake Sanderson and having to cheer against them. Where are you? What's your number, Greg?
For the same reasons that Graeme outlined, I love best on best. I'm really looking forward to seeing like a guy like Connor McDavid. How's he going to step up? How good is he going to look playing best on best like this? And seeing him, I hope Sidney Crosby's healthy and good to go. We don't know exactly yet, but I'm more like an 8 or a 9. Like I'm excited to watch it.
Wow.
I've missed it over the years, and I'm very excited to watch it. I might even watch Sweden, Finland, for crying out loud.
But it's not like there's anything else on. I was just thinking about, maybe I'll go over to Canadian Tire Center and catch the Belleville Senators take on the Laval Rocket on Wednesday because they're playing. I think I'm a bit of 5 right now, fellas. I'm just not sure what it is. But, I mean, it's a 5 now, but I reserve the right within the first period of the first Canadian game to jack it up to a 9. But at the moment, I'm just like, what is this thing? If Canada wins, I'm going to go, boy, won the Four Nations. Is that something? It's a first time thing. I like best on best. I'm the same as you guys, but man, when you're talking Olympics and Canada Cup, man, this is a million miles away from that for me. But like I say, 5, but I reserve the right to crank things up.
Ready for the big game? Your home should be too. With Celebrate Lights, you can show your team spirit and light up every victory. Sync your lights to your team's colors and let the whole neighborhood know when they score. Match your team's colors, celebrate every win, and take the excitement to the next level. Celebrate permanent holiday lighting, the easiest way to set the stage for unforgettable moments.
While we're talking about patriotism, recently the Sens had a game right after Trump announced the tariffs where, which game was that, Graeme? Exactly. Was that Minnesota?
Yep.
Okay.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, so
yep, that was the last home game.
Yeah. Booing the national anthem of the Americans. How did we feel about that? We'll go with you first, Graeme.
I've been trying to get Senators fans to slew the national anthems for a long time, and it just hasn't caught on. So we need to support Lyndon Slewage a little bit more. But the booing, like, I understand, I appreciate it. Fans can voice their frustrations as well as they want to, and they paid the ticket price. They can do whatever the hell they want. But I totally understand it. I have no problems with it. Same with like Americans booing the Canadian anthems down south. Like I totally understand. It's a dynamic Canadian franchise. You get to boo people. I think there's an element of having fun with it, a little fun with it. But I think there's also an element of truth where a lot of people are pissed off and frustrated.
Yeah, Greg,
you pay your money, you can do whatever the hell you want. I personally wouldn't be doing it. I think it's disrespectful, obviously, disrespectful for the singer. I heard a couple of people say, well, maybe we just shouldn't have clapped. Maybe when the song was over, we just don't react in any way, shape, or form. And I thought to myself, well, that's even more disrespectful to the singer, isn't it? Like, I'm not sure which is worse. But no, you pay your money, you do what you like. I wouldn't do it myself, but do what you like when you pay your bucks.
No, we're
3 for 3.
Way.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought one of us at least would come in and rip the fans a little bit. But no, I mean, it's a really serious thing that Trump did there. Like, it could have absolutely ruined a lot of businesses. And so I think the argument is, well, you have so many American players. You say you love Brady Tkachuk, for example, and what does that mean? How's he going to feel hearing that? He understands. He knows it's like these guys never pick up the news. And somebody'd ask a question, why are they booing the anthem? Oh, your president did this. And they'd go, oh, okay. Nobody thinks they're booing Brady Tkachuk and the other American players on the team. So I don't blame the fans. It was still pretty raw. If it carried on for the foreseeable future, then I might go, okay, let's move on from this. You made your point, but yeah, we're 3 for 3. No issues with it whatsoever. As we begin to start to land the plane here, I'm curious to know what you guys thought, because it's been a few days since we last did a podcast episode. So a lot has happened, like I say. Ryan Hartman ended up with a 10-game suspension. I figured he'd get a good one for basically his WWE move on Tim Stützle on a face-off, put the back of his forearm in the back of Stützle's head and kind of rammed it into the ice face first. 10-game suspension, though. I didn't think it would be that high necessarily. What did you think, Graeme?
Well-deserved suspension. Like I read his explanation for how he tried to explain it, and he lost his balance. He was trying to use Tim as a way to stabilize himself. It's excellent.
Yeah,
it's great. But
while he's bent over with all his weight over his head.
Yeah,
I'm going to lean on this guy. It's a perfectly stable.
Yeah, coincidentally, it also happens to be Ottawa's best player.
Yeah.
Weird, super weird. But it's a big hit to his pocketbook, and I think with some of those rats, like this is I believe it's his 5th suspension or 5th player safety incident. The best way to hurt those guys is, I don't think it's a fight. I don't think it's anyone on the ice jumping in. I think it's like you have to hit these guys in the pocketbook, and if it's going to cost them several $100,000 to do it, I think that's the best deterrent. Just keep hammering away at these guys. Hit them in the pocketbook where it counts.
Greg?
Well, the usual question leading up to it was, what do you think you'll get? And the answer to what do you think you'll get for me was 5 or 6. What do I think he should get was 10. So, hey, it's a bonus. I was kind of surprised by it, actually, because I figured the easiest thing in the world for them to just give him 6 games and turn a page and move on, because they never seem to get it right. But I think at 10, they got it right for one of the few times.
Yeah, I would absolutely echo those comments. I mean, 10 games. When I said up the top, I was surprised by it because, well, George Paris and the Department of Player Safety is not really their forte to come down that hard on the guy. But, I mean, Graeme mentioned the number of suspensions. I think like 4 at least of them have been since 2023. So this isn't like a decade of work. This guy's been off the rails a lot in the last couple of years. And the referees in the game apparently were actually telling him, listen, you're out of control right now. They were in his ear about it. And then he went ahead and did that to Stützle. So that factored into it as well, along with repeat offense. Go ahead.
I wonder, Steve, like Conor McGregor had that incident, right? Like earlier in the month where he kind of took matters into his own hands. And I don't know if it's a message from player safety or whether they got the message from the NHL or when it's a directive, but it's like the league needs to protect its star players. Like nobody in the world is paying to watch Ryan Hartman play, although he can be an effective player when he's playing his game. But you got to protect those guys. Like, people are coming to the rinks to watch Tim Stützle, they're coming to watch Connor McDavid. You have to protect those guys, and you got to throw the book at these guys who take liberties, like just reckless liberties with these guys. And it's about time they stepped up and started protecting their stars.
Probably the best deterrent of all, because obviously Hartman's not learning his lesson from past suspensions. He may for this one. It's something like $500,000 in money that's going out the window for him. But you know what? I don't know if I've ever seen, because you always say like, oh, okay, well, you got the power play and make it pay that way, and rarely do power plays actually do that. In that game, though, like the Sens scored 3 times on the Hartman 5-minute major. So you're thinking, imagine Wild players coming off the ice, having to face those guys. Your head coach is probably in your ear. That might be as much a deterrent as anything else that went down for Ryan Hartman, who's obviously got to get tighten up the screws a little bit in that brain of his. But let's close it out today
Travis
because
Green. Sorry, I was going to say good on Travis Green for continuing to put the number 1 unit on the ice. Like he said, you're going to do something stupid like that, we're going to make you pay, and kept putting the big boys on the ice. Good on Travis Green. But I interrupt. Sorry, Steve. Go ahead. Land the plane, baby.
No, that's okay. That's all. No, that's all good. Plane landing for sure. And I was really hoping they were going to pile it on because, it was just a greasy, awful, dirty, every word you want to use, play by Ryan Hartman. And so good riddance for 10 games. And the Florida Panthers will be the opponent on Saturday night, and that will be it before the break, a 14-day break, which will come in handy from a healing standpoint. But around the table one time, what are we expecting against the Florida Panthers, Graeme?
Anton Forsberg.
Wow.
No.
Wow. Wouldn't that be something? That would tell you that Allmark is hurt for sure.
No, it's that's gonna be a tough game. Well, obviously, it's gonna be a really, really tough game, and I think Ottawa's so banged up. Obviously, they're talking about Shane Pinto possibly returning to the lineup Saturday. I think that'd be a huge addition. Obviously, his two-way aptitude is phenomenal. He's starting to contribute offensively a little bit as well. But like, just any situation where they don't have to rely on like Zach Ostapchuk playing a top 9 role is good, and even taking some of the pressure off Ridley Gregg. It's just, I think Ottawa's just got a lot of guys at the bottom of their lineup who are playing maybe like a line or two ahead of where they should be. And if they get back some of the regulars and they can start slotting the guys at the bottom of the lineup lower, I think that'll help them. And then I'm hoping they'll have 12 forwards. Like, I really don't want to see Travis Hamonic and Nick Mattampalo playing at the same time again. Like we talked about it briefly, but like, I just wonder, we keep talking about it, there's the point of no return with Travis Hamonic where the team will start taking him out of the lineup just because he's been their least effective defenseman, but that hasn't happened at this point. And he played more minutes than Mattampalo on Thursday night, and I just don't, from a continuity standpoint, from an effectiveness standpoint, I just don't understand it. And I think fans don't understand. A lot of fans don't understand it as well. And I don't want to harp too much on Hamonic because people have been doing it all season. But man, like Greg said earlier, like if you got to upgrade one position on the roster, the easiest probably spot on the roster to do it is the third pairing right defense.
You use the verb harping, Graeme, before I get to Greg. And someone's got to get to Stephen Halliday and tell him what the definition of harping is. That's when you're getting on someone in a kind of an aggravating, annoying way. Somewhere along the way, Stephen Halliday has adopted that word in maybe a way he shouldn't, because he's talking about his head coach, David Bell, constantly harping on him. Ryan Bonus is constantly harping on him. I'm not sure that his bosses will be appreciating that particular word being applied to them from some kid, but Halliday is rolling right now, by the way. But harping?
Constructive criticism, right?
Exactly.
Some people respond well to that. Greg would know that, right? Like, that's just good coaching.
Harping works, baby. Harping works. How do I think they're going to do against Florida, Steve? I have a feeling that their best chance is that 75% of the Panther lineup is getting excited about the 14-day break and are starting to think about packing bags and leaving town and getting away. And maybe the Senators have a chance. Otherwise, I don't think they have much of a shot. I'm sorry to say, Saturday night in Florida.
Now with the line combinations the way they were, like I did not again appreciate what Travis Green threw together. That was just like, what is that? I don't mess around with it. Like Claude Giroux can play center. He's like the best face-off guy in the game, and he could probably still play it better than some of the. Anyway, I don't want to go too far on this, but I think Claude Giroux should maybe slide to the middle, try some things, because that lineup, I don't think that was a very good choice. But yeah, Sens at Florida on Saturday night. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we shall call it a show. From here at the Senator Hot Stove over my left shoulder. Graeme, appreciate you being here today, and hopefully we can do this again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Great time. Greg, great to talk to you again, man.
Yeah, good seeing you.
A lot of fun, Steve. Thanks for having me. Yeah, you too.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget. Thank you very much. Some housekeeping. SensNationHockey.com is our website, and we also encourage you to check out all of Graham's stuff, my stuff, at the Hockey News, THN.com/Ottawa. Thanks for being with us. We'll talk to you next time.